What is up, everyone? It's your boy, a jar of cum! And today, with me, Berk, we'll be talking about the wonderful Springtime Spree banner featuring a couple of Chinese people who does martial arts in a wind type element. So, let's go and start things off with Lin Yu. Lin Yu, the new green axe. So, what do you think about her initially, Berk? Do you have any good feelings about her?
I like her art. That's one thing. I like the getting the 15% defense in wind. It's always good to have that for high dragons. I also like more abilities like sleep, inflicting just right on the skill, and then not having this like Punisher or whatever type thing like all those bows have. Just to have kits that don't rely on that type of thing. So I think her kit's interesting, and you got Bog Res again, so should be usable for Mercury.
Yeah, I feel like they're really setting up Mercury to be Bog. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, she sprays water over the place. But yeah, it's probably going to be a lot of Bog involved. I don't even think there's going to be any freeze. But hey, we could be surprised. Now, what I think is interesting is that I think this is the first 5-star that comes with a skill haste as one of the skill slots. I mean, we're not really big fans of skill haste, but when you think about it, her skills are actually not too slow. I mean, she does have 3k for Typhoon Fist and 8k for Heaven's Breath. So, I mean, skill haste is kind of like, I don't know, 8% for maxed out, and you add in for like, if you were to team up with a bow unit, which you're very likely to in Mercury, you could push yourself to like 28%, which is, no, wait, it's 15%, right? Or is it 20%? Uh-oh, I better check that out real quick before I say something that I would forget. Let me just...
Bow is 15% for the 5-star.
It is 5-star? Oh, it is 15%? Okay, alright, good. I just kind of forgot for a second there. I don't team up with bows enough because they're kind of still But yeah, I mean, now they'll push you to like 23%. So when you think about it like that actually makes skill haste actually pretty decent. I mean, you're looking at then the actual SP cost for Heaven's Breath to be like as low as like 6,000, no, a little bit below that, like 5,800 or something like that. Maybe a little, maybe I can't do a math off the top of my head right now, but it is pretty short. And one of the things I always thought that would make her really strong is if Heaven's Breath has a much lower cooldown. So what that thing does is that it restores HP, first of all, with a 36% potency. It's not really all that important. But the important thing is that it activates Heaven's Breath, which increases the attack rate of an axe user by 20%, or her attack rate by 20%. And it also powers up Typhoon Fist and gives you a little bit extra damage, and also increase your range and inflict sleep. Now, I think 20% attack speed is probably the biggest cause of celebration here for axe units, because axes, they swing so incredibly slow, but they hit so incredibly hard. So Heaven's Breath, now having like a cooldown of like 6,000 or something, you can probably activate it like multiple times during a fight. I feel like that's the selling point of this character. So this time, skill haste is very much worth its slot as part of her 3 skills. Now, do you have any other thoughts on this? On the matter on skill haste? Like, has this changes your mind about skill haste at all, Berk?
No, I think pretty much feel the same as I did before.
Oh, you still think that it's kind of like iffy? It's not all that great still?
I think with the Wyrmprint changes, it will be more interesting when you can, because the more you stack it, the more oppressive it can get. Like we just can't get it. It's hard to get it that high right now. But if you're getting it easily to 30% or 35%, which will be doable with multiple Wyrmprints, then I think it really could take some low SP cost things and you can just fire them off like right away. It's going to be crazy. But right now, I think it's still kind of
Well, I want to figure this out though. I mean, like we're talking about like stacking Wyrmprints and such like that. Maybe Wyrmprints they will stack with one Wyrmprint will stack with the other with like basic skills, but do you think that like multiple Wyrmprints would stack on top of each other, like different, like the same modifier? Say you have skill haste 10% on one, and then you have skill haste 8% on another one. Would it become then 18% skill haste, or do you think they'll probably just balance it around and make it so that it's the higher one, so you end up having just 10 skill haste rather than 18? It just gives the modifier, so it doesn't, you can't stack it like that.
I think it will stack. If it doesn't, I think skill haste is just going to continue to remain one of the less desirable abilities. But I guess I could see it going either way. I would like to see skill haste be more relevant. So I would like to see it.
Yeah, I mean they've been kind of pushing it for a bit because we've seen the New Year Wyrmprint with Ieyasu with skill damage and skill haste, and then previously we also have the Jewel of the Sun, which also has skill haste. I think that they might really be trying to push for it, so I guess you could say that they would stack it, but I could also see stacking Wyrmprints to be really strong. But on the other hand, that's a good thing, because then Wyrmprints are a lot more desirable to pull.
Yeah, that will make those Gala banners a lot more appealing when, you know, the Wyrmprints are so much more valuable.
Yeah, I think maybe that is best, but I still can't help but feel that there will probably be some restrictions to it. I mean, right now we're still kind of just thinking, oh, you know, of the future, not like right now, but still, I can't help but feel that they'll probably restrict it somehow. Like, they just want you to cover as many different modifiers rather than trying to stack things. But if it does work indeed, where you can just stack it freely, then I think Wyrmprint's value will go up tremendously. But anyway, so yeah, then she comes with the, we kind of got sidetracked with all the Wyrmprint talk here. So she also comes with critical rate of like 10% when her HP is 70. So we all know about axes. Axes actually have double the base crit rate than normal weapons. Normal weapons have like what, 2%? And axes have like 4%. So they can crit a little tiny bit more. But when you consider the fact that axes hit much harder for their speed, it actually adds up to a lot of damage. So then you combine Heaven's Breath, which allows her to swing 20% faster, and you have to think about it like this. 20% faster not only increases her DPS, but it also builds up her skills even faster. So with faster attack speed and the skill haste, you're looking at spamming skills like an actual typhoon. That is what this character is about. I actually really like the way she's designed, because she just kind of, if she gets started, she just kind of keeps going and just going and going and going and going. I can tell her DPS was probably going to be out of control once she gets started. Now, her basic Typhoon Fist is kind of like, 6 hits of delay hit, blah blah blah, and an enemy directly ahead attack. And then you have your Sleep. Sleep is kind of useless against bosses and whatnot, but it is good against mobs if we do get into a situation where we fight mobs. But having just one attack skill, well, 2 if you include a 5-star axe, this becomes a very, even with just one without that axe, she's already very, very crazy because of Heaven's Breath. I feel like Lin Yu is definitely really worthwhile pull, and is quite well designed. I feel like a lot of the older characters might need a buff at some point. I don't know, they need something. I feel like the newer characters just keeps getting much, much stronger. Their design just seems a lot more coherent. Of course, I mean, maybe not all of them, but definitely need, like Hawk and Nefaria definitely needs to get looked at again. They're just like what you said earlier. I mean, the abilities where you have Sleep Punisher and stuff like that, and just like 100% HP to inflict 50% chance more of stun or sleep, it's just kind of a waste of a slot. So I hope that they get looked at coming forward. But anyway, do you have anything else you want to say about our buddy Lin Yu, or shall we move on to the next topic?
No, that pretty much wraps it up. I think she's good. If you get her, she's going to be a very good unit.
Alright. So let's talk about, one of my favorite topics I want to talk about today is Kuhai! So Cool Guy over here is a green sword. We've been joking about, oh, there's no green sword. Now there is for a bit now. And he seems to be, or at first, seems like a standard DPS guy who just kind of do some damage. But then you look at his Keen Blade and its special ability. Now first, his basic attack is Soaring Flicker, which does damage, but it's really, really low cooldown. It's like only 2.3k as opposed to others are like 3k or something like that. So he's already spamming that. And then you have his Keen Blade, which changes his playstyle quite a bit. It gives him like, the SP cost is like 2.9k, so you're also spamming that. He just becomes a non-stop killing machine. Now, tell me more about your research on Keen Blade. What do you think about this wonderful tool?
It's very interesting. It doesn't really say it in the description in the game, but what's really interesting about this ability is that it has a very, very high amount of damage for the overdrive bar. So normally it would normal attacks will be 8 times. His 4 strike hits 3 times, but they reduced it to 3.7. So obviously 3 attacks at 3.7, that's more than 8. So
like about 12,
he actually is incredibly good at breaking the overdrive bar, up there probably with Xander without having like the passive. His 4 strike, and especially when it crits, just does massive amounts of chunks on that bar. Not to mention the other great thing about the SP cost here is it's so low that you can actually charge up the Keen Blade by spamming 4 strikes, and by the time the buff's about to run out, it's up again. So you can just continue to just spam Keen Blade over and over again. You don't even have to use Flicker. Obviously, the situation, what's going on, is going to depend on whether you want to do that. Use Flicker or just spam the Blade, but you could just continue to spam 4 strike over and over and over again and keep activating Keen Blade.
Yeah, this character is a very spammy character, but does so much damage. I mean, look, you also have to consider the increase of critical rate by 10%. Now, he doesn't have abilities that helps him get further critical rate, which I thought was kind of silly. They just keep stacking critical damage. And then you have the Panda, which also doesn't stack critical chance, but I imagine that they'll probably release a dragon that is like the Christmas Joan, or Dragon Yule Drone, and that comes with 15% crit rate. That would help him tremendously. Crit damage is great, but 10% itself is not enough. Of course, we also have to consider that Wyrmprint changes, and if you end up stacking like critical chance things on him, then he'll become quite a force to be reckoned with. I would imagine if, say, let's see, 11's champion is like, what, 10? If you max it out? Alright, well, for the sake of just this argument, like 10, 20, then you add a dragon like that, 35, and then you have his native 10%. You're looking at 45% crit, and you're just kind of boop, 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 over the place, and you're doing, let's see, 15% critical damage, another 15 to HP 70, and then 30. So that's already 200% extra damage. And then you have 11's champion and stuff like that. And you're looking at a 220. So you're looking at a lot of damage coming out from this guy. And this dude is only a 4-star. So like I said before, characters seems to have much, much better design than they do before. It's a lot more coherent. And they seem like they're really pushing for crit this time around. I feel like ever since Dragon Yule Cleo, we've been seeing crit a lot. So that's probably the new favored mechanic for a bit. I don't think they're gonna bring back bleed anytime soon, though. I think bleed is more of a New Year's thing. It's a good thing to bleed for New Year's.
Yeah. Also, like you were saying, if they do come out with a dragon that's like the Dragon Yule John, the Wyrmprint from the last banner. What's it called? Stellar. I think it's called Stellar Show. It's like 4 strike damage plus 40% and crit plus 13. Critical damage plus 13. If you get his crit rate high enough without the Wyrmprints, that is an incredible Wyrmprint for him.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we could also just use the crit chance Wyrmprints and use that long dragon thing. I mean, that's 55% crit damage. That's a lot. That's
it's more for because he gets the 4. You can just spam the Keen Blade for the 40% 4 strike too. So
yeah. So I mean, you stack chances. I feel like it'd be scary. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that's a better Wyrmprint for him. I think the Force Strike with the crit damage is really nice. I feel like it's probably a better choice than the other ones. The other ones are more generalized, but this one is much more specialized for him. And it's kind of funny that it came out of the banner before this one. But yeah, I seriously think that they're starting to make all the design choices around crit for the time being until they think of something else to do. Anyway,
Yep.
you think there's anything else you want to say about Cool Guy here?
He's really fun to use. He's strong. He's a very attractive husbando, so if you get him, there's not too much negative to say. He can be tricky to dodge with. Like, his Force Strike goes so far that and he doesn't have like a super armor or anything, so he gets interrupted. So you have to. He can be a little trickier to play, but it's super fun and rewarding to play him.
Not having super armor. Now that's interesting. So all this dashing around does have its weaknesses. Interesting. But when he does get going, so much like Lin Yu, you can see a lot of damage. And I feel like that's the kind of guy who really gets going a lot. I wouldn't want to be overdrive around him. He'll just break it, and that'll be the end of it. Seriously, if he had come with overdrive gauge on his abilities, it would be way overkill. Oh my god, dude, this guy is out of control.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's move on to the next one. Why don't we talk about a wonderful welfare unit, Su Fang. So, let's see, Su Fang. Just like the others, comes with a Bane. Oh, 50% bog resistance? Whoa, what do you know? And then a skill damage of 20% increase. You can never go wrong with that. The man is a critical guy with a dagger, so he gives crit to all of his new Chinese friends that does a lot of critical things. And then you have your Gale Slice, which does damage in front. Then you have Crackling Pyro Blossom. Increases strength with 20% in 10 seconds. And oh, hey, guess what? You can stun with that Gale Strike. Really, I don't know. I mean, this character, I don't really feel much about him. I guess he's kind of good looking, but he's just, I'm probably going to be able to skip past him rather quickly, unless you can think of something else you want to say about him.
Not really. The only thing I can think of is that it's really not even about him. They gave us that 50% bog res thing for free, and I think that was intentional. I know I sent in feedback, I'm sure others did, that these welfares get screwed with the resistance. They always get 50% only, and they never can be used. If they're going to be giving away 50% resistance for that type, that makes these units in general more appealing. So that I'm happy about that.
Well, I think one thing is that at least we have a slightly stronger grass dagger unit. Before we have what? Francesca, and Francesca doesn't give you much in terms of crit rate. Not that I would invest on either one of these in terms of their co-abilities, but hey, at least we're starting to get somewhere with the co-abilities for grass teams or wind teams, whatever you want to call them. But it would be better if we had a 5-star, because then they would pair really well with those two other crit dudes and turn them into massacre machines. Like, the earlier calculation of 45% crit chance on Cool Guy didn't even calculate crit chance from co-abilities. So with that, you would be pushing over 50%, and then you have all those crit damage modifiers. You're looking at a ton of DPS. I don't know, I'm starting to get really afraid. Do you think this is like a coming sign of like power creep, or do you think this is like kind of manageable, it's more specialized, more niche? What do you think?
It could be. I get the sense that they're doing some prep for this double Wyrmprint change. I don't know how that's going to shake out, but it does seem like the power level's increasing. At least, though, I like that it seems to be in like a... It's not just raw numbers. It's not like you just see a bunch of, oh, here's a stronger Mikoto or here's a stronger whatever. They're more specialized, like the play styles and things, but the power level does seem to be getting higher on these banners lately.
You see, the thing is, with crit rate, I feel like crit rate, crit damage, I feel like it's kind of like power creep. They're really power creeping, but they're hiding it, you know? They're hiding it behind the mechanics of critical chance and critical damage. Much like if you were to equip a critical damage or critical chance dragon, your strength is much lower than someone who has 60% strength dragons because, well, you only have 45% strength. You can't really see it on paper, but in reality, you actually do a chunk of damage. So do you think like maybe this is some kind of like a strategy to hide the power creep or something like that? If so, I think it's actually pretty decent.
I'm not sure. It feels like it's more niche or specialized, like more powerful but more limited in a sense. I don't like Long would be a good example. Like he's really strong, but there aren't that many units that can really take advantage of it. But like the ones that can, he's probably just better than any other dragon for them that they could possibly use.
I'm still kind of unsure. I feel like this really skyrockets their DPS, but when somebody actually do the math, we'll have to see. Because I still think that the bleed guys are probably still much stronger.
Oh yeah, well, they're all the bleed is just really strong.
Yeah, those guys are just out of control strong. I mean, let's talk about something else though. I feel like I'll probably go in circles about this if I keep going. So, let's see, do we talk about the panda, or do we suddenly go to a light element with a new 3-star character? Let's talk about the panda real quick.
I was going to say, there's not too much to say, because he's... I have him, and he was really fun to use, just he's a fat panda running around, and he can attack really fast. I mean, this dude goes ham, and he has a Kamehameha that he doesn't aim well, but does a ton of damage.
He doesn't aim well?
No, because I don't know, it doesn't like auto target well, like the way when you're attacking it changes direction. It's very bad with that. So I mean, I just attribute it to him being a fat panda, not able to make a quick adjustment to, charge up his beam. But when it crits, it does a lot of damage.
All right, yeah, okay. I guess it's kind of like asking a fat boy to turn on a dime. You can't really do that. Yes, that makes perfect sense. So I mean, like, how thick is the beam? It's like not that thick, right? Or I mean, is it compare it to a healer's beam?
It's probably about twice as thick.
Oh, still not as thick. Okay.
Yeah, it does do a lot of damage though. He was just fun to run around with. He's got those tiny little glasses, which are funny.
I feel like you're right. I think it's like playing as Martimus. Now that I think about it, I feel like that's what that is. He's like based around his ridiculousness. He doesn't really do anything else, though, in terms of skills, except his abilities. His skill is just a beam that just shoots out, and then you have his ability, which gives crit damage. So I guess, yeah, we can't really talk much about him, aside from that he gives like a niche use for certain units who really stacks crit. Well,
pretty much just the units on this banner is, I think, the only ones that can use him right now.
Yeah. Oh man, this worries me. Like new dragons like that are just specialized to certain heroes? I wonder what that means. Like, can you imagine, like, a dragon that helps lengthen bleed duration? I suppose that you can make that a case of Mari, who does the same thing by just giving, like, a blood stack by spinning her sword around really quickly. I feel like, I don't know, would they release like different dragons with more of these weird abilities, or do you think they'll still stick with like the basic health and damage, and then sometimes strength and critical damage, stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it was going to be all this crit, and then we just got the Liger. And that's just like a Poseidon.
Yeah, Liger was pretty bad. Yeah. I
have a feeling Liger's actually going to be useful for the high dragon,
Yeah, you think
Zodiac,
that he'd be like Poseidon, like Poseidon use?
Yeah, but in terms of like, you're not blown away by it when you see 30%.
All right, well then let's talk about Poseidon for a second then, or rather not Poseidon, more or less the new like welfare dragon Peng Lai, who looks like Shenlong, that you could make wishes to after you gather the 7 Dragon Balls. This dude, while there's really nothing special about him, he's just a welfare dragon. He does give HP to 30% for water. Now, HP 30% is exactly what Poseidon has, and Poseidon doesn't really use as a tackle that much if used on a healer. So I feel like they have relaxed the High Brunhilde thing a little bit with the release of that dragon. So I feel like wouldn't something like that also kind of weaken Liger a bit? Because I mean, the only reason why you use Liger is so that you can meet like HP thresholds. But the problem with Liger is that Liger is light, and we already have Zhong. Zhong is really, really strong with a lot of HP, and she can also, if the situation calls for it, lays down more defense to help them defend against mechanics and such like that. That could be very useful, not to mention that ridiculous range. So I don't know. I just really can't find a case to argue for Liger.
My concern is that they're going to continue to increase the initial blast requirements each time, and that eventually it's going to get very high, especially with the 2 Wyrmprints. And like we just saw when we went from HMS to H Brune, that it went up pretty steep. It's probably going to do the same thing again. So it could just be the case where range they just need some HP on their dragon, otherwise they're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we might not even get to see range units down the line at this rate.
That would be very bad.
Yeah, we could end up having to use Liger because of that reason, and that's terrible. I don't like Liger. It's just so silly to build a character. Because if you haven't noticed, like a lot of these characters that we've been getting 5 stars are like just melee characters. They seem to be favoring melee at the moment. So
they do, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the lower defense for range is. I mean, it's not a mistake. It makes sense. But the problem is that if it's applied also to the opening blast of a boss, I feel like it's just telling range units, "Hey, look, you guys just aren't invited. Go home. Go home. You guys aren't invited. You're not tall enough to ride this thing."
Yeah, or it restricts the build options to like now you need to run some kind of defense Wyrmprint if you're ranged every time.
Yeah. That's the thing I really hated about High Brunhilde is that it locked to pretty much 4 characters, unless you want to try some meme builds with people who already have experience in the fight. And how would you get the experience from? Well, playing those 4 characters. If you don't meet the requirements, then you can't even practice. You can't even do it because he just blasts you and you die. I don't really like that kind of mechanics. It's really dumb. That's like their way of telling people, hey, just spend money on this game. I'm not quite in favor of that. I mean, I spend money, but I don't like the way that they do things. I like the difficulty of the raid. I like mechanics, but I don't like the opening blow. It just sounds so stupid. 4 characters. We had to be restricted to 4 characters. It took us how long before we finally get those characters? How long until you finally built that Poseidon and then we finally build him? And now this dude, Peng Lai, just kind of shows up now. Just casually shows up like a Shenlong, and now you can just build him and skip Poseidon altogether as a healer. It just feels kind of shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to happen. It was inevitable. But this is good for, all the other people that they want to run it now they can get in. I still got value out of having it in the short time to gain for now. So, I kind of just knew that this would happen. So it doesn't bother me too much. I guess I'll backline Poseidon or something like that when I'm doing runs or auto battles or, the raids, and you're not going to slap Poseidon back there.
That is true, too. That is true. When it comes to AI control, well, I feel like a mix of attack and defense is good. Having too much defense, they don't do enough damage. Having attack, well, they don't survive, because they're kind of derpy when it comes to rolling sometimes. So yeah, I suppose you're right. Poseidon would be good for that reason. But yeah, that's pretty much it I can really say about Peng Lai. He doesn't really have anything else to do besides, I guess he inflicts bug. He's kind of like Leviathan. So that's cute.
That's about all he has in common with Leviathan.
Yeah, he's kind of cute, I guess.
It's just good for a lot of people have been gated out of this fight. So I'm happy that these dragons, these welfares tend to be really, really bad, and this one's not an exception, but at least it's a really, really bad one that will help people clear the endgame content.
I like that direction in terms of gameplay. You're right. Well, that's about it for these New Year's, guys. Let's go talk about the 3-star that they brought in, Xiao Lei. Now, Xiao Lei is very interesting. She just kind of randomly shows up, a 3-star wand user, and she does, a flash strike that does, actually pretty decent damage. 2.8k SP cost. But what's really amazing is that tactical analysis. Tactical analysis increase the entire team's critical rate by 8%, which is no laughing matter, and then increase 40% critical damage. So this is quite a bit of a boon. And it's not like Senua, who you have to rely on RNG to get that. You just have that. And its SP cost is very manageable. 4.6k after an upgrade, very manageable. You can probably spam it quite often. I feel like this is a very interesting direction to go for 3-star units, because then now 3-star units themselves are also very good. I mean, you look at the abilities. Skill damage 20%, that's solid. But then out of nowhere you have, not out of nowhere, she's a light unit, never mind. But then you have that 75% stupid poison resist things. But if we're not thinking about the resistance or the really crappy co-ability, she's actually a pretty decent unit. I like this. I like this direction. Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe she can't actually participate in like high dragons though, but I really like this. Tactical analysis is a really scary skill. And being a light wand user means that you can use 2 attack skills. At least for now, until the void staffs come. So then you have this really crazy character with 2 attacks, and you have this. Right now we're running Senua in high Midgard, and she's already proving herself to be quite powerful. She doesn't need to dodge melee attacks, she just kind of sticks there and just keeps hitting, and then she just builds up buffs one after another. Although, I guess I could argue in a case against her is that tactical analysis does not buff your devs, obviously, it's strictly offensive. So, since how fights like High Midgard works, or just any High Dragons in general, where you take unavoidable damage, having Senua being able to increase your defenses sometimes is actually very nice. So I guess, I don't know, it's kind of a bit of a paradox here. Back to what I was saying earlier about how, you have to be this tall to ride to enter a high dragon fight. I don't think she'll be tall enough. I think she's gonna come up short. In fact, really short.
Yeah, I think so too. I still think this is an interesting. I'm just picturing someone using her with a Cupid and stacking the buffs and having 33% crit for your team and 40% crit damage. Sounds very, very strong.
Indeed, it is very strong. I really like it. Reliable crit buffs, really, really good. But unfortunately, for high dragons, I don't know if we can actually use her.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'll have to see, but I'm doubtful.
Well, maybe. Alright, maybe it's possible. It's really disgusting, but this could be the chance for Liger to strut his stuff. Slap on a Liger, and then you also have Halloween Ellie, and you also have Julieta. That might be enough to push her through. That might actually be enough. In which case, her tactical analysis will be what will carry the team's DPS, because she's not going to be putting out that much due to using Liger, but that tactical analysis would really show its colors there. I feel like that might actually work out now that I think about it. It makes me kind of want to pull on this banner now. But probably not. I'm not going to pull for like a 3-star or something like that.
You'll just end up getting her later, because she just should look permanent pool, so.
Yeah, that's also the thing about this banner. I mean, all this stuff is on a permanent pool, so I kind of feel like, why am I summoning? Why don't I just wait for a Gala banner and just kind of be like, oh yeah, I'll get her as a pity break, and then I won't feel as bad when I get it as a pity break. Because getting 3, well, Shield just shows up. Like, otherwise she'll show up at like 150. But I mean, like, can you imagine getting Linyo now, and then you pull a Gala banner for, I don't know, a special Mim, a special Brunhilde that you can play as, and then all of a sudden, I'm not pulling her, I'm pulling Lin Yu, and I'm drinking 3,000 Eld water. So I feel like maybe it's better to just kind of avoid like permanent banners altogether, but you still kind of seem like you wanted to pull on it. You already pulled twice. Like, if you hadn't gotten Long Long and Sword Guy in like 2 10-folds, which by the way was amazing luck, would you have felt like, I don't know, would you like be really angry at the game? I feel like it was a bad move on your part, but it did work out for you. I don't know, what do you think?
It was not the best decision to pull, but I kind of felt obligated to because of my friend. So, yeah, I mean, I think I was really hoping that the sword guy was going to be freeze res, and if he had been, I would have pulled for sure. But my wind is a little weak in general, so I don't mind having another unit, and he's really fun to play. So I think overall it worked out, even though it might not have been the best decision.
All right. Well, let's go and talk about the Wyrmprints, and then I guess we can call it for this banner. So the first one is Kung Fu Masters with Pandaria. So this Wyrmprint, just like the previous one from the circus, specializes in a weapon. Now this one, axe critical rate. Now this is no laughing matter. 12% critical rate with no like any other condition besides the fact that you have to wear an axe. And then you have skill damage of, well, 15%. Not like the highest, but the critical chance is really the one that's going to be doing most of the work here. What do you think about this wonderful Wyrmprint?
I think it's an example of what I was saying before, where there's power creep, but it's very specialized, and it's only certain units can take advantage of it. But if you're that type of unit, it's just better than the other options. I don't think there's anything close to this for an axe with the crit and just the total raw amounts on it. I don't think you can do better. So if you're an axe, and especially obviously the unit on this banner, but I think almost any axe unit is going to want to use this.
Yeah, axe, like I said earlier, have additional crit chance already. So you have that, you have a little bit extra skill damage. You can look at some really scary impending skies, because the 5-star light axe, if I recall correctly, gives 50% extra crit damage. So yeah, this could be one of these things where you could start seeing some ridiculous numbers starting to show up with skills. So combine that with the skill haste that we talked about with Lin Yu earlier. Yeah, this is a very good Wyrmprint. I think they're really making Wyrmprints more attractive now, so that you don't feel like absolute shit when you pull one. So it's not a bad direction. I mean, like with Gala having 3% Wyrmprint over like all the other stuff, I feel like this is a much needed change when it comes to it.
Yeah, like we say power creep, but power creep's not always bad. This is good power creep, because now you get these Wyrmprints and you're not you're still disappointed, but you're not as disappointed.
You're still disappointed. Not as. It gives your character a new dimension of customization. I feel like that's one of the cool things about Wyrmprints such as these. Alright, well, do you have anything else to add for this one? Shall we move on?
Nope, it's good. Yeah, if you're an axe, you want it. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well then, next one we have Warrior Maiden featuring, hey, your pal Joan of Arc that you get 8 of. It is a silly Wyrmprint though, but I like it because it's one of the few, no, I think it's the only one right now that comes with Slayer Strength. The other ones, like Together We Stand, only happens if you were to kill someone with a Force Strike. So this one just says defeated, which is much easier to build up. And with Slayer Strength, if you go to a map where you fight anything with mobs, you'll quickly build up 20% extra strength. And strength, pure strength, is uncomparable. It's unparalleled. Much better than any other stats in the game. So that Slayer Strength is really good, but obviously the stipulation is that you have to have mobs to fight, but otherwise it's really good. You don't have to do anything fancy to get this besides killing mobs. Now, what I don't understand is, what is up with that recovery potency though? 10%. What's the deal with that? What's the point of slapping it on her?
This is a confusing one. The only unit off the top of my head I can think of that might want this is Julieta, because she's got the built-in heal when she gets down to 30%, so she can actually take advantage of both of these abilities. But even then, that doesn't seem like a fantastic Wyrmprint even for her. Then there are other things I'd just rather use.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you could also use it to combine with other things like that Christmas thing with the healing double buff. But even then, like I said, it's not really all that great. The recovery potency is just kind of weird. It's just doesn't sit well. If you wanted to make it, you know, like, oh, it's based on Xian, you would have given it defense or something like that. But this recovery potency kind of kills his Wyrmprint to me. It doesn't make enough sense. But I guess it could be useful for, like, mixed healer attack types, which could be the new brand of units that shows up. It could
that's, you just touched on it, because it seems like they're starting to lay these things out a little bit more in advance. Like we saw that Wyrmprint on the circus banner, and then it came out right for this guy. There could be a unit coming in a banner or two that really wants this thing, and they're putting it out now. That could be very well could be the case.
Yes. Well, regardless of what, I mean, like, you probably don't want to sell this Wyrmprint right now. Eldwater should probably just come from like 3 or 4 star Wyrmprints that you see a million of. Like 5-star Wyrmprints you really don't want to sell. I'm not saying it's, of course, Luca's prank, but even then you could probably save it for whatever reason. I don't know, to build up light resistance.
With the art.
The art, it's kind of silly, but yeah, I guess you could also do that. But the resistance is actually not bad. You can actually use it to block a certain amount of damage in like high dragon situations, which will help you achieve your threshold much easier. So I mean, people joke about, Luca's prank being really crappy, but it actually could be useful if we do have that extra Wyrmprint slot. Then you have like this thing that helps you reach your threshold better, and you still don't sacrifice your damage from your from having just a Wyrmprint that is defensive. So I think that coming forward, those old Wyrmprints will probably see a lot more use. So hopefully that is what the case is. Anyway,
I thought you were talking about the Warrior Maiden, because that's when I said look at that art. I meant the John Warrior.
My bad.
I still think Luca's prank sucks.
I kind of went on a thing on Luca's.
Because like I'm looking at Warrior's Maiden. I actually did get this. Surprise, surprise! Because pretty much anything that has John on it ends up coming home for me. I didn't even want it because like I don't know who I'm going to put this on. But I can't burn this for Eldwater with that art. I can't do it.
Like what the hell, dude? Yeah, no way. I'm glad at least with Wyrmprints and extra dragons, you have the option to just kind of hold on to them. Whereas with adventurers, here's some water. You don't have a choice. Just drink this damn thing. But anyway, let's talk about the 4 stars. Real quick and be done with it. So then we have this dragon dance. It's another dragon dance, and it's fog resistance 50%. Psst. It's so silly. It's just there for the welfare guy. But well, I really think that they're really pushing for that stupid 2 times Wyrmprint thing. At the very least, 2 times Wyrmprint. It just feels like that's what they're doing now. They're just trying to prepare everything ready for the 2 times Wyrmprint, so that you have something ready, so that your welfare unit can actually go and participate with 100% bog resistance. That's all I could think of.
Yeah, welfare, and also there are some really strange ones in the 3-star pool that have like 50% bog res and then 25% freeze or some weird. I think there's an axe unit with some weird thing like that. I have one. I forget what her name is. I should find it. But it's like a mixed res where it's like 50 of one and 25 of another, and that it just ends up being completely useless. So it would help them too.
Yeah. Well, it will also help Elizan. Elizan is actually a really sad case of a character who kind of got ruined because of her strange resistance. She's a 4-star, so naturally 4 stars could build up to 100%, but she doesn't. Not only does she not do that, but she also splits 2 resistances. Like, she splits fire and stun, 50 and 25. So it's really, really sad for her. So a Wyrmprint like that would really help her out. Hopefully like a 5-star that gives 50% of certain resistance and like some kind of offensive skill. See, that would actually work out for her. Back then, we would see these Wyrmprints and think of them as really shitty. But now, I think with the Wyrmprint changes coming forward, it'll give her some room to be salvaged. Because otherwise, she pushes so much extra DPS. You just kind of like use her main skill, buffing everybody's attack, and just keep spamming it. And she just increases the whole team's attack DPS so much higher. It's just like that 3-star unit we talked about earlier. So I feel like talking about these 4-star Wyrmprints now is a good thing, because I'm really appreciative of the direction the way the game is going now. So I hope that's going to continue to be the case with the game. Anyway, let's talk about one last thing, unless you have something else you want to say about that.
No, I just hope they continue giving us like a 50% freeze would be great. 50% blind would be great. Like I would never complain. I'd be welcoming those if they gave them to us. So even though they might look boring, those would be really great for players.
Oh yeah. I mean, you remember back then when we were talking about that Cupid banner, and we have that one with Harudagon and her pal Sibylla and as the Wyrmprint. You saw that and you were like, oh man, this thing is great. So it once again goes back to the whole foreshadowing thing. It really did carry it over now to this pre-2 Wyrmprint meta. So I can't wait to see what kind of new and exciting things that they'll put in. Alright, so the final thing we're going to talk about is the Lunar Festivities Wyrmprint, which also increases Force Strike. And this thing has Striking Haste, which increases your skill gauge fill rate by 8% when Force Strikes connect. I feel like this is the kind of thing for a cool guy. I don't know about you. I mean, like, we talked about that stupid dagger thing from the circus before, but now we have this. I feel like this is might be more cooler for a cool guy, because his cooldown reduction is pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely would love to test it out. I don't know if I got it or not, but it certainly looks interesting. If he could fill it sooner, like I think right now you can fill back the Keen Blade pretty much a second maybe before. So if you're filling even faster, you might have the flexibility to say, throw off your Soaring Flicker. That goes off, and then have time to reactivate Keen Blade and still keep everything up. If you could like add that in because of this, that would be super cool.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I feel like, see, one of the things that we talked about before is that although Ieyasu has this ability where he does his second skill, where he kind of heals and it kind of buffs his... How did it work again? I forgot. But anyway, the idea is that with skill haste, you can match it so that you can use your skill 2 to then immediately use your skill 1. It kind of just changes the timing of those two skills a little bit, because, well, since one has like 8,000 cooldown and the other has like 3,000, you kind of like change around the order a little bit so that you can actually make it so that they activate together more often, or at least close the gap for which you can activate those two skills together. Because if you just use Blade Formation, that's what it was called. If you were just using Blade Formation by itself, it's kind of crappy. But if you were to use it with Sakura Flurry, you can do a lot of extra damage along with it. So I feel like Skill Haste might be one of those things for it. And since our pal Cool Guy has relatively... it's actually really low cooldown, you can see yourself just never ending, just spamming skills. It's actually kind of scary when I think about it.
Yeah, it's exciting. This is a very exciting 4-star Wyrmprint.
Yeah, I feel like Skill Haste will probably see more use soon, and if that is the case, I might just welcome those Wyrmprints that I have that are just kind of collecting dust with Skill Haste before, and I'll take back what I said about Skill Haste. About how, oh yeah, you have to wait a whole stage, to build up one skill. That might change if this trend continues, because the more skill haste you have, the better it is. Looks like they're going to that direction. But anyway, that's about it for my analysis of this. Do you think you have anything else to add, or should we wrap this up and call it a day?
Nope, that's it for me.
Alright, well then we're wrapping it up and calling it a day. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.